Am I the jerk for not running my potential baby names by my sister-in-law who grew up in foster care? My wife, who is 28 years old, and I, who am 30 years old, are expecting our first child together. We know the sex, and we have built a list of names we both love and want to consider for our child. However, we have not shared the details with anyone else. The sex of our baby and the name will not be announced until after the baby is here. We do not want unsolicited opinions on the names we are discussing. We do not want people to tell us to honor family members with the names. We have no judgment toward anyone who uses family names, but that is not for us. We also do not want people giving their opinions on spellings or whether a name works better for a boy versus a girl. We have witnessed debates like that happen around other expectant parents who shared names, and we do not want to be part of that. This brings me to my sister-in-law, who is 32 years old and married to my older brother, who is 35 years old. She grew up in foster care and was not adopted. From what she has talked about, she grew up going to many different foster homes and had a lot of bad experiences in foster care, some of them really tragic. She asked us a few times what names we were considering, and we told her clearly that we were not discussing names with anyone but each other. She would let it go in the moment and bring it up again. She brought it up again a week ago. This time, instead of letting it go, she pushed. First, she said, "I really want to know," and then it was, "This isn't a state secret." Finally, she said, "I'm hurt you don't want to share with me." I asked why she was hurt when she was not alone in not being told. I made sure she knew that nobody else was told the names we were considering. She said that given her history in foster care, she expected us to run the names we were considering by her to make sure none were particularly traumatic for her or brought back bad memories. My brother said we could tell her, and she did not have to tell him. I told them if she had a name or two that were particularly triggering, we could take that into account. However, we were not letting her go through our whole list to decide what we can or cannot use. She argued that I was not being compassionate. I told her she was asking for too much. My brother told me she was just asking for some understanding, and I replied that it was exactly why I said she could tell us names that are triggering for her. They told me that could be a long list. I told her she would surely know names that cause a lot of bad memories to occur. My brother told me I could be more open to trying to make it work and that I am being too strict. He asked if I would rather know now than when my baby is here. Am I the antagonist? In my opinion, you have done nothing wrong here. The only people who have a say in the baby's name are the parents, and you offered a very reasonable compromise for her to share the triggering names she doesn't want. If she doesn't want to do that, then this is entirely her problem, and you owe her absolutely nothing. Her triggers are her responsibility to manage, and encountering people with those names is inevitable. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law his daughter would grow up to hate him? For as long as I can remember, my brother-in-law has been creepily obsessed with my sister, but because he is attractive and has money, everybody likes to pretend it is cute. I do not know how he convinced my sister to finally give him the time of day, but that is a story for a different day. Anyway, they have been married for 4 years and have a 3-year-old daughter together. I am convinced that the only reason they even had a child is because my sister has always wanted children, and she would have left him if he did not agree to having one. The reason I think this is because he has outright said my sister is the most important person to him, even after their daughter had been born. When their daughter was in the hospital, he only came home because my sister told him she was scared, and not because he was worried about their daughter. He admitted this himself. I think my niece and sister both deserve better, but I usually bite my tongue to keep the peace. He has a way of always making the other person look like the bad guy in front of others, so I knew I would get a lot of backlash if I said anything to him. Recently, he missed his daughter's birthday because he went on a work trip that he could have moved or canceled. Since my niece is so young, my sister celebrated her birthday twice, since she would not really know the difference. During her second birthday party, he was completely unbothered and was not giving his daughter any attention. He was too busy watching my sister the entire time. I felt so bad for her because she is a complete daddy's girl and just wanted him to play with her on her birthday, and he was not encouraging her at all. The only time he bothered to give her attention was when my sister was around. Eventually, it was just me and my brother-in-law, and I told him he should give his daughter more attention. He just scoffed and claimed he did, but he absolutely does not. I asked him if it had been my sister's birthday, would he have gone on that trip? He would not answer because we both know the answer is no. I cannot remember exactly what else was said, but he told me to mind my own business. I was feeling pretty angry on my niece's behalf, so I told him that he should not be surprised when one day she is all grown up and hates his guts. I also said that my sister would catch on and she would hate him too, which I think got to him more than the comment about my niece. As I mentioned before, he has a way of making the other person look bad, so he spun a story to my sister, and now she is upset with me because I will not apologize to him. Am I the jerk? You're in the wrong here. It's never in your best interest to mind someone else's business. Their family matters shouldn't be something to stress over. Plus, he managed to make you look bad with your own words in a Reddit post. Am I the jerk for ignoring my best friend because they don't show interest in my important events? I recently connected with a lady and later became her best friend. My friend stays in a different city, and we occasionally see each other. She has been going through a relationship issue for the past few years, mainly because her man is toxic. I was always available for her and would be her shoulder to cry on whenever she needed me. At first, I realized this was odd and would offer advice to break up with this man, but she never listened and would come back to tell me they reconciled. On my honeymoon trip after I had my civil wedding, my best friend called me to complain about her relationship and how heartbroken she was. I left my husband at home and traveled 3 hours to see her and made sure she was all right. I spent 2 days at her place. When I was preparing to have my church wedding, I sent her an invitation and was really looking forward to having her at my intimate wedding. I had 40 guests. On the day of the wedding, my best friend sent me a text message to congratulate me, and that was it. She did not show up at my wedding at all. I was very sad, as I wanted to be surprised by her and honestly would have done the same for her. I posted my beautiful pictures on social media and on my stories. I was very disheartened when I realized that she never liked any of my wedding pictures, even though she was very active and would send me messages all day, every day on all the social media platforms. I questioned her why she never showed any interest in the important events in my life, and she blamed it on the emotional stress she is always going through with her man. I made her understand that I will not be a party to her relationship anymore and will not let that affect our relationship. If she genuinely wants this friendship to work, she should be invested as much as I am. I told her to contact me when she is in a good headspace to have a friendship with me. Since then, I hardly contact her or share anything with her anymore. So am I the bad person for ignoring her? I think you are not in the wrong here. This is a one-sided friendship where you're putting in all the effort, but not getting anything in return. She only wants to be your friend when it's to her benefit, which isn't how friendships should work. It's time to walk away and focus on friends who actually care about you. Am I the jerk for texting my neighbor? I, a 30-year-old female, moved into a neighborhood about 3.5 years ago. In the first few months, I often had my parents over to help with yard work, as the backyard was a huge undertaking. A neighbor in his 50s down the street would often pop by while we were out to talk, and even gave me his number if I needed anything as I was living alone at the time. During the landscaping overhaul, I was getting rid of a ton of river rocks that were scattered throughout the backyard, and the neighbor mentioned he wanted them. So I would text him when we had another load of river rocks to get rid of, and then he would come pick them up. He is a very nice guy and made me feel super welcome in the neighborhood. He would always stop and say hello when he drove past me in his car, and I was out walking my dogs. A few months into living here, I noticed there were police officers at his house, so I texted him something along the lines of, "Hey, saw the police at your place. Hope everything is okay." He responded that he was out of the country, but it was good to know, and he would check in with his wife. Since living here, we would exchange the occasional pleasantries when he would walk or drive by. Up until today, I have never met his wife or even seen her. I was out walking my dogs and happened to pass my neighbor and who I assume is his wife. When I walk the dogs, I typically have my AirPods in, listening to music. I did the neighborly smile and kept walking until I heard my name. My neighbor yelled my name, asked about my dogs. I answered, then kept walking. All was fine until I got a visitor at my front door about 30 minutes later. I went outside to chat as my dogs were barking, and the lady introduced herself as my neighbor's wife. She then talked about how I called her husband while he was out of town about the police being at her house. Truth be told, I completely forgot about it until she detailed a little bit more. She told me she's been angry for the past 3 years about this and wanted to clear the air. Confused, I explained that my intent in the text was to just say that I hoped everything was okay and was not done in a prying manner. She said regardless, if I really cared, I should have come up to their house and knocked on the door to check on them. My neighbor's wife then said that, as a woman, I should have gone to her and not her husband. Again, I have never talked to or seen her and only had her husband's number at the time. I explained that, but she said it was still inappropriate that I reached out to her husband as I'm a woman. I thought I was doing the right thing to check on someone who had been super nice to me, but the way she talked about it, and the fact that she has been angry for the past 3 years, is really making me think I did something wrong. Am I the antagonist for texting my male neighbor to check to make sure he was okay? You haven't done anything wrong. You didn't even know he had a wife until recently, and not before you texted him about the police. There was nothing inappropriate or flirtatious about it, just neighbors texting neighbors, which is perfectly normal. It's so odd that she would be upset about a little thing like that for 3 years. Maybe she was hiding something and didn't want her husband to find out. Am I the jerk for telling my father's wife that I'm not responsible for my older brother? My brother, who is a 20-year-old male, and I, an 18-year-old female, share the same deadbeat father. He left our mother while she was pregnant with me. They were both 24 by that point, having my brother when they were 22. They were still young, but not like 18 or 19 young, you know? An excuse has always been made for him, that he was young and dumb, etc. We did not ever know him or want to know him. Our mom died when we were still young, 7 and 9, so our aunt and uncle, mom's sister and her husband, finished raising us, all without any help from our father. He evaded child support for 18 years because we had no idea where he was. Our father actually left the country and moved back 5 months ago with his wife. We found out because she contacted us on social media. We ignored her the first time. Then she reached out again. The first time she was like, "Hi, I'm married to your dad. We just moved here. We're expecting a child together and we want you to know your new brother." The second time, it touched on the move and the expecting a baby together thing, but also went into how important family is and how we might be mad at our father. She added that we have an innocent sibling who would love to grow up with his older brother and sister in his life. There was such a deep attempt to shame us into responding. All the mentions of her child being innocent, using the word brother and not even half, talking about generational mistakes, etc. We again did not respond, and she tried to send us individual messages after that. This angered my brother. He met her once, and he told her he hoped our father left her son the way he left us. He wanted her to understand why she was such a terrible person for trying to shame us or claim we had any obligation to her kid. He said he hoped she knew her kid was nothing to him and would never be his real sibling. He did not care if it hurt her kid's feelings or not because they are not family. He also brought up the fact our father owed tens of thousands in child support. He hoped they would not need that money because if she made contact one more time, he would chase after it. He did not care if it made them homeless or not. My brother told me he had met her but did not give details about how it went, and I did not ask. Then suddenly she showed up at my aunt and uncle's house and she wanted to talk or whatever. She basically tried putting what my brother said on me and also tried to add more shame for not showing an interest in her son. She was also looking for me to berate my brother for what he said to her. I told her I was not going to turn against my brother in favor of her or her child. I also told her I am not responsible for my brother and I refuse to take any because she wants me to. Then I closed the door in her face. I did not let her inside even though she is heavily pregnant now. She created another social media account and told me how rude I was to her. She said she just wanted me to say I did not agree with all the disgusting things my brother said to her. Am I the jerk? You did nothing to deserve criticism. She broke many boundaries, so consider getting a restraining order to prevent contact from her. Your father abandoned you, and you don't owe him or his new family anything. You're not obligated to have a relationship with people who don't respect your boundaries. AITAH for quitting a game after my husband interrupted me. My husband has been trying to convince me to play Ghosts of Tsushima for a while, and I finally agreed to play it. While playing the game tonight, he interrupted me during a standoff, and I missed a game guide tip that came on screen. I was in the middle of a standoff while he was watching me play. As I was fighting, he asked me a question, and I got distracted answering him while trying not to die at the same time. I am not great at processing multiple sources of sensory input simultaneously, which is why I do not normally play games like this. They require the player to keep track of lots of different moving pieces simultaneously, which is very stressful for me. I typically game to reduce stress, so I do not gravitate towards games that I find difficult to play. While I was fighting the enemy and trying to answer my husband's question, I missed a tutorial tip that came on screen and was not able to read it before it vanished. I did not know I missed it at first until my husband asked me if I had seen what it said. I told him no and asked what I missed, but he refused to tell me. I got a little frustrated, but it is not the first time I have gotten distracted from something right in front of my face while trying to process other sensory input. I asked him if it was something important I needed to know to play the game, to which he said, yes. I explained to him that I missed the tip because I was talking to him and asked again what the guide said. He smirked and said no again with this smug, teasing expression. Are you really not going to tell me even though I missed it because I was talking to you? Can you at least tell me what it was about so I can try to Google it? I asked. Nope, he answered. I closed the game, put the controller down and left to watch television in our room. Now he is texting me that I am overreacting by quitting and telling me to just play the game, and I will eventually figure it out. The little interest I had in playing the game is completely gone now. I did not want to play it in the first place, but I knew my husband wanted me to, and at least the gameplay was beautiful and the story sounded interesting. I play games to relieve stress, so now that I have missed important information I need to play the game, and I do not even know how to find what I missed, I am over it. I think I cannot go back since the game autosaves and does not keep a backup. Even though I am not super far in, I still do not want to start over and redo everything from the beginning. Am I the antagonist for quitting the game? You did nothing wrong here. He was clearly more interested in amusing himself at your expense than actually helping. Hounding you to play, interrupting with unrelated questions, and then not helping when you miss something due to his distractions is childish. It's ridiculous that he tries to gatekeep an on-screen game tip and then taunts you about it. You gave it a try, but his behavior ruined any interest you might have had. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.